Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
Nice. I'll pull YouTube up so I can monitor this real quick.
Yeah, let's have to keep this.
Does the thing only stream at like 720?
I think while it's live, it does do some compression,
Ah, okay.
and then it'll go nuts after that. Quality, yeah, 720 is the highest.
Okay.
I don't need to see it at 720.
Yeah.
I think that's probably low.
How do you add a backdrop?
You go to
It is.
where the video is.
Mhm.
There's a little bit like a up arrow, and choose a virtual background. These are kind of questions I get at work.
Up arrow. I don't see it.
You see where the video is?
Yeah, the main video. Yeah.
It says like stop video or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Down
Oh,
there.
I see. Oh, I see.
I think you have to like import a picture or something like that, but or at least that's what I do for mine.
Yeah, there's a bunch of default ones. You could do like the beach if you want to be at the beach. But
yeah, I gotta set up like a new one where I'm just like in my cockpit or something like that. I'm just like in my cockpit in my car or something. That it just looks like I'm driving or something the whole time.
Shoot.
I'm trying to let the people on the Facebook group.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Live.
Mm-hmm.
Now all I need is a link to this thing. Copy link.
Desktop.
Oh, I finally got the drive-by-wire working on the car. So I mean, it's not mounted. I was sort of just bench testing it in the bedroom, but I made throttle body control or throttle pedal control throttle body, and it was a freaking nightmare. Just because like there's no documentation on the pedal or the actual throttle body or anything like that. It's like even trying to find
which car
like
is this?
the Miata.
Okay.
So I'm going drive-by-wire on that one. So I got a 90 mil throttle body that's drive-by-wire. It's for like a Dodge Ram or something like that. So like it's like a factory board out, or not board out by the factory, but it's a factory one that's gotten bored out. But yeah, it's like under $200 for a throttle body, and it's just okay, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Oh, your thing's picking up like
I forgot what a
area in your
body.
background.
Yeah. I don't know what a throttle body cost these days. But let's get back to our chat about tuning, right? So like
oh yeah.
Somebody asked Mike, I think his name was Mikey Mike, on my latest video because so I got the bigger pulley on, and dude, it's dead on, making like 16 psi, nice. 17 if you bounce off the rev limiter at 8,000 RPM. So like we're good money, right? We're good.
Okay. Wow, so we jumped down quite a bit actually then, because what we were at almost like 20, 22.
It's like 21, maybe 22 psi. But and the same thing happened. Remember when we went to Lime Rock?
Yes.
We went from the 2.8 inch pulley to the 3.0.
We went right back down, yeah.
And I mean, it went from like 16 psi to like 11, like barely 11.
Yeah.
So someone asked me whether like the car will compensate for that, or where I need to retune it. I haven't touched it really.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends, because like as far as like my baseline thing would be like to recommend to everybody, it's like, yeah, of course, get it retuned, or at least have like at that point, if you've already been like to a tuner for, you had the whole tune dialed out, they're already familiar with your car. They know how your car is going to behave. So at that point, would I be okay with like an e-tune or something like that? Absolutely. Just, send a couple data logs to your tuner, make sure that everything checks out as far as they go. But like the way I guess, pulling down would work would be just like you're gonna you're already making 20 psi at 8,000, and so you're gonna make like 12 at 5. There's just an example, but so now you're running 12 psi. The car should already be tuned for way more fuel than it needs. So worst case, you're just gonna run rich. It's not like you're gonna lean your car out.
Yeah.
So like in your case, the drop isn't that drastic, and long-term fuel trim usually takes care of dealing with
Yeah.
any problems like that. So yeah, it'll keep you safe at least. But yeah, I wouldn't go out racing on it.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I noticed is like the part throttle, like I'm gonna say like 50-60% throttle, heavy acceleration needs to be fine tuned.
Yeah.
If I do a watt pull, the car's fine. It's actually demanding because it's actually demanding 13 degrees of ignition, so I'm pretty sure it's making more power top end.
Yeah.
Maybe not optimally, and that's because when you look at the boost tables, it's not working with okay, what ignition were we demanding at 15 psi versus 20 psi. So things shifted a little bit.
Yeah, because your ignition is going to be locked versus your RPM, right? Because it's usually, especially fueling, is map versus RPM.
Right.
And so it'll go through there. So like, you still have, if the tuner did their job and wasn't just tuning it for your dyno pulls, right? You're gonna have tuning for the characteristics of when you're not full throttle at high RPM. So you're gonna be low on PSI regardless.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be hitting the same threshold that you were hitting on your more boost pulley. Just you're gonna be watt, and you're gonna be making half throttle power type of deal.
Yeah.
That's just an example, but yeah.
So you got to quit on that picture, Hans.
Yeah, it's not working. I think it's the white. It's
Yeah.
too much white.
Yeah, it's too much white, dude.
The lights in my room have it like sort of yellow behind me, but
I think you need at least like a brown shirt or something.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm not gonna do it.
It is what it is, dude. Like we've had live streams with people like outside, with people in their cars.
that's true. We were driving for one for a while.
Just don't flush it. That'll be weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Hans is working on his well, not really. Well, working on waiting on your engine.
Nothing's going on. Yeah. Nothing. Yeah, everything is just on standstill.
Like they're not even working on your motor this time because they're backed up for.
They said they got it sleeved.
Okay,
that's it.
That's a good amount of machine work though. So that's the majority of your big stuff though.
Yeah, but they say they still got like, I thought it was 40. It's 20 ahead.
Oh, okay.
So it's gonna be a while.
Yeah.
They probably crank out engines like clockwork, dude.
Yeah, I wonder how much profit they make off of each build. I was wondering that.
It depends on like how they're doing it too, because like somebody who's like really experienced could probably crank out all the fine details in a couple hours.
Yeah.
Pop out one or two engines as far as just like rod and piston jobs. Every day, like I wouldn't doubt that, with the right tooling and stuff in front of you, you'd be able to pump that stuff out pretty quickly.
Yeah, they're probably not doing the piston ring clearances like we were, just little.
Yeah, exactly. They have like a machine and a dial that they could measure all that, like how much are we actually taking off, not just, does it fit? Does it not fit? Which, again, there's nothing wrong with it, but, it's definitely more accurate to have your like everything have a number to it, But I mean, people have been doing it like that for years beforehand, so I don't feel bad at all.
Nope.
trying to hand file stuff. But yeah, of course, if I end up having a situation where I'm just building multiple engines, of course I'd pay for one.
Yeah,
it covers my ass a whole lot better.
Yeah.
It, like I didn't have an opportunity to do it for your engine or my dad's engine, but I'd love to like eventually build engines and give a freaking dude a binder with, okay, these are all your ring clearances, this is all your weights for your rods, and
Nathan, you said you were gonna give me that, and you didn't.
Was I supposed to give it to you for that one?
You're like, no, dude, we're gonna totally do this. We're gonna measure out the clearances and all.
I mean, we measured it. We just didn't write it down.
Exactly. So I don't remember. But it doesn't matter. Honestly, dude, this engine, like, once it warms up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's good, regardless. But like, sometimes I'm sitting in like at a light for a while, and I'm like, you wouldn't be able to tell this thing is like built. I mean, you could hear injectors.
Yeah.
Injectors are loud. So
yeah, when I finally saw your car running again, I was or at least driving again, I was like, oh man, is this car when we came to the dyno, because I haven't seen you really since then, or at least before the dyno. But I was talking to Hans as you were playing. I was like, man, is the car like more clicky? Or like, because I have no doubt that it was definitely like the balance shafts and the oil pump like make a big difference. Because I mean, there's a reason why they put them there. At least for daily driver trying to sell a car to a couple 100,000 people. But it's, of course, it's a little bit nicer to have a smoother engine. But like I was just like, oh man, is it like the fact that it's built, and like it just sort of passed through my head. I was like, man, this engine sounds like different. But
you could definitely hear injector noise.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially
like you went up from there too.
My exhaust is quiet. Like, and that's the thing. Like, it's when you do so much at one time, it's hard to pinpoint. Like, okay, that's this noise.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not like I just did injectors. We did like everything. Fuel return. But yeah, I was a little like, I wasn't too upset about the fact that we had to dial the car back.
Yeah.
I really wasn't. I've been through that before with the RSX. When your dad had the same supercharger as I did, and for some reason I kept making like 20 pounds of boost, and he was at 15 pounds of boost and making the same amount of power as I was. Even with a bigger throttle body, I was like, to me, I could not understand why that was happening.
Yeah, it's those car to car attributes or location.
But now that
the days that you dynoed,
I know. Now that I think about it, I think I figured it out. Hans, you said the K20 Type S crank pulley is the smallest, right?
K20 Type S, the 0405. No, 0506 model, yeah.
Yeah. So I had an 0204 and Jose had a 0506.
So slightly different.
Slightly different, yeah. Because the second smallest is 8th gen.
Yeah, let me see.
I think, if I remember correctly. I have the chart somewhere. I sent it to Barry, but I think 8th gen is the second smallest.
Something like that. I'm actually looking it up too.
I'm looking it up. You guys talk about something else while I research here. Talk about curves.
Hold on, I'll get it right now. I got it right here. So all right, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the smallest.
But what's the Type S from 0204?
5.8 inches. 0506 5.4. 8th gen is 5.75.
Got it.
So it's Type S 0506, then 8th gen, then 0204 Type S.
Yeah, so that's the difference. And like you could tell, they're like, but I went from 3.2 inch pulley to 3.5, and I lost like 5 psi.
Yeah, it was a big jump.
Maybe 6.
So
And there's a difference in the way it makes it. Like before, it would jump straight to 16 psi, and then like go like 1 psi per RPM or whatever until we got to like 8 grand.
Yeah.
Now it jumps to about. I looked at the log. It jumps to about. I'm gonna say 11, 12 psi, and then it just sort of climbs.
Yeah.
Which I think it's probably a little better, easier to control all that.
Oh, definitely. Because I mean, superchargers in a sense are just like turbos, where they sort of spool up a little bit, but it's more a spool with RPM. But you're always going to have a base, like
PSI
pressure ratio, right? And or like you have efficiency ranges with superchargers, just like you have efficiency ranges with turbos. I could push a little like TDO Ford stock turbo up to 300 psi, but it's going to stop pushing after 250. I'm going to have to literally crank up the boost after that. So I had something similar when I was first turboing the stock motor on the Miata. I was like, oh yeah, I made about good power on like 10 psi, and then I was just like, oh, it's not pulling the same when I add a psi. So I had to add another go up to 15. And I was like, oh, okay, now I feel it. But yeah, no, it's pretty similar.
Yeah, I guess the difference is like that doesn't stop them from getting instant torque. Where like the turbo is a little bit different, where like it will slowly spool up to 12 psi and then like just spin to kingdom come.
Yeah.
To like 24 whatever psi. So we got a little bit of the opposite effect going on.
Yeah.
Tell you what, the one thing I was really impressed with was the K20 head swap on a 9th gen. It is like it really wakes up a car.
Yes.
So being in Florida and checking out that dude's car, Andrew, really cool guy, man. Like, hey, what's up, buddy? What's going on? How's your kids behind you? Hey,
oh.
He's gonna be your cameraman. Hans and I are doing like a collaboration video, long distance. It's gonna be kind of funny.
Yeah, he sent the script today.
Like I actually made a script. Look at that. Like I thought about this ahead of time.
Yeah, they wrote stuff up.
I was like, oh, let's just point and shoot. But yeah, man. Basically, from what I gather, like, and I'm working on editing this video. It's really not a very difficult thing to do. As far as the head swap, obviously, you got to know what you're doing, but there's a lot of parts that mate to each other. Just gotta know you need a specific like head gasket, for example. I think it's the 8th gen head gasket for that one.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think I'm gonna do it this year at all. Period. Like unless something happens, like which I don't expect anything crazy to happen.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely be getting one and just keep it in my back pocket. If I wake up one day and I decide to start building that thing, I'll build that thing.
Because realistically, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a job. Because I mean, if you're used to doing a head gasket, then you'll do that fine. And especially since you have head studs, you're basically just going to reuse what you have, pop a new head on, change a gasket, file a cam pulley bolt down.
Yeah.
And basically slap it back together. Because I mean, you saw some places they recommend that you actually weld the head to clear up that the oil passage for the return. But realistically, they're overlapping, and the gasket sort of makes up the difference between the two of them. It's not like you're flowing 10 psi oil pressure, 15 psi oil pressure through there. It's just drip down. Really, the only thing you have to worry about is just crankcase pressure. And you're already clamping the head down together between the gaskets. So I definitely like to see it and use it to see how it holds up over time. Because everybody knows how annoying a weeping oil leak can be, but
for sure.
It'd definitely be a good save of time and money. Because I mean, realistically, even if you're welding it, all you got to do is take the head to a shop. That'll just flatten it out, like they do to any other head that's warped.
Right. I mean, the thing is, like I'm like really impressed with the Florida car culture, man. Like this dude, I was talking to him, Andrew, and he's like, yeah, I have a machine shop here, machine shop there, and like any machine shop that is not only, they're not just doing like basic jobs, they're doing some heavy duty modifying of like heads and whatever.
You get a lot of big players out there.
They are all already well known for doing these kinds of things. Over here, dude, I remember when I called the machine shop to try to do my valve guides. They look at me like I had three eyeballs because I was just like, I just want you guys to do this one thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's just not that good up here in the north.
Yeah.
At least where I am.
It's definitely harder to find like good shops around. I mean, even in like my local area, the Carolinas, you got Pro Dyno, a couple other shops, but especially out in the Carolinas, a lot of the guys focus on V8 stuff. There's hardly any import guys out here. There's two shops that come to mind, and we've had really good experiences. Just like hanging out with one, and the other one, I've seen issues. So yeah, it seems like, especially out here, if you're not comfortable with the two shops, you're sort of stuck, or you're forced to learn.
And shipping a head to somebody, it's like, okay, it's no big deal if I just ship this head to somebody to have this weld job done or whatever.
Yeah, that's too.
It'd be nice to like be somebody in your backyard, but whatever.
You can at least check in on what's going on, not just, I sent half my car away. And whoops. We'll see what happens, but
I want to pick Hans's head though, because he did a video this week that was pretty funny.
Which one? What video did I put up? The noodle one. The food review.
Where'd you come up with that, dude?
Oh man, my uncle's always been telling me to do food reviews. I never did it. And then my sister's like, you should do food reviews. Because actually no one really knows. I'm making a new channel soon for like a comedy channel. So we just I have a whole bunch of content. I just probably won't upload it. It was just feelers, teasers, whatever. And we did the food review earlier this week. And we'll probably have like one food review a week. But it's really three of us. One guy couldn't make it. So it was just us two doing that food review. And it's we'll see. We got a bunch of content.
That was your uncle in the video?
No, that's my friend.
Oh, your friend.
Yeah, my friend. Yeah.
Okay. Does he normally eat spicy food?
I don't even know.
He handled it pretty well.
Yeah, there's this other spicy noodle my sister told me to try, so she bought it for me, and she's sending it to my house. And she was like, "You need to really try it." So we'll do a review on that. But yeah, we just planning on talking trash and eat and just talking about random topics.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
What did he say? Like lost in translation. I was like, really? The movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the video, Nate. It's pretty funny. You gotta check it out, dude.
Yeah, I still gotta check it out. So I saw it this morning, but I was still waking up.
It's a long movie. I mean, it's a long video. It's like 9 minutes of us eating. It's just pointless shit.
Hey, it's content.
Pretty sure Nathan wasted more time doing other shit that was pointless too. So Nate, you got a couple projects still to finish at home, dude, right?
I do. I'm still making slow progress on some of them, but stuff should definitely be stepping up in the next coming months. I still got the Miata things going on. I got a little bit of update with that. Mostly just been trying to bench test stuff with the ECU, starting to get more familiar with that. messing around with drive-by-wire stuff, which has been really fun, really frustrating because I don't have much information in front of me. But other than that, I mean, I got it working. So now it seems pretty simple at this point, but that's going good. I got Dad's car, which I've been working on a lot recently. That car is basically ready to just fire up next week.
The EP3.
The EP3. So it's already got engine, trans, clutches in it. Everything's all mounted up. I fit the header.
So that you did the cut on the radiator.
I did do the cut on the radiator. That was 2 days ago. I cut it, and
yeah. So you cut a perfectly new.
Yeah, coil rad.
Yes. Rad, yeah. A lot of people were frown about that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I was like, oh, why didn't you just cut up some Chinese radiator or something like that? It's like,
yeah.
The coil rad was in front of me, and something needed to happen, right? But yeah, no, we cut it because on the EP3, obviously, we're trying to fit a blower that's way too big for that chassis, or at least in a sense. So yeah, what was sort of funny is that we don't have the T-bar on the RSX and EP3 that's used for like the hood latch and upper radiator support. So basically, the usual for fitting a supercharger on that is that you have to get rid of it. For like a 1320 to 1900, some guys get away with it. It just sort of depends on what your situation is, but yeah, no, we got rid of it because we were running a 1900 on it for a while, or we were running a CT on it for a while on our newer manifolds. And so you get rid of it and we go put the 2300 on it, and I go, oh, sweet, this thing actually sort of fits. Obviously cut the hood a lot. We're basically just the upper skin at this point over there.
Yeah.
I had to ditch one of the latches on the hood pins because the headlight support bracket hits on the larger pulley because he doesn't want to go small pulley yet. So
did he make like a custom 4-inch pulley?
He has a 4-inch pulley for a couple of people because I know we were getting requests for him for a little bit. So he finally produced them. They look nice because they're like hollowed out on the inside, or at least they have like speed holes going on. And so that's definitely going to look really nice. But let's go. So yeah, there's a bunch of clearance things, but now looking at the 23, it looks like the T-bar may actually, or at least not the T-bar, but the actual hood latch for the factory one might clear, but now the bypass diaphragm hits the radiator inlet on the top there. So we move it over like 2 or 3 inches, and we're already doing different hoses for the top anyways. So that's going to be that for that basically, because that's all really I have left to do on that car is finish the cooling. Wiring's already factory. I just have to change a crank sensor because we're going from K20 to K24, so you have to change that. Obviously play around with K-Pro a little bit and then put an exhaust on it, but it's basically ready to fire up already. So I'm pretty excited about that.
How much bigger is the 23 versus the 1900? Is it huge?
It's 2.3 liters of displacement versus 1.9, but like size-wise, physically, it's slightly longer. I would say it's about an inch longer. Maybe half an inch wider, but it's more tall than it is wide. Okay. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So realistically, fitment is not horrible. I mean, fitment on a EP3 was going to be bad regardless.
Yeah.
Because it's a stubby nosed car. It's not gonna play nice. But I mean, we were running RSXs with 1900s forever, and I mean they're not that much different. I had to trim the hood on my car slightly, but we're definitely sort of going the cut everything till it fits approach on that car. So it's going to be the street car that's treated like a full race car as far as like how it gets built. So it's like, oh, we need bigger tires. All right, cut everything to put bigger tires on it. And sort of go from there to put it back together and make it look right.
Yeah.
But right now, tires and stuff will come later, but trying to get everything, mounted and get the car started, and so we can do some testing on that. Because the other thing too is that we don't have any. I want to say we don't have any data on the 2300, but it's just we have 1 or 2 cars that have been running them, and the setups have been, 2300 here, but it's a stock motor. 2300, but it's detuned because I have a stock transmission. I'm trying to keep it alive, but I wanted a 2300 anyways.
Yeah.
So we don't have anybody who's like, okay, built trans, built engine, built drivetrain, tires, and sort of full send from there to see what it can do. But I definitely think 600 is more than possible out of that.
Yeah.
Without overstressing anything too.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what how the curve looks and everything, like when it hits the peak torque.
Yeah.
Curious to see on a 23.
Yeah, on a 2300, you're definitely going to see sort of like when Barry switched from 13 to 1900, you see that the torque just peaks immediately, or at least as far as like boost and driving characteristics.
Yeah.
There's no, you sort of lose a surge up the power that you sort of get with the supercharger, because it's like, it's sort of weird to explain it, because it's sort of like if you have a small turbo car or like a factory turbo car, and you just feel like that really strong torque pull that happens once it's in boost.
Yeah.
That's sort of like what's the beginning of a supercharger pull is like that, where it's just surge immediately and then pulls the surge all the way up the rev range. So it's sort of nice, but you're definitely going to see a big hit as far as like torque off of tip in for throttle. It's definitely going to be pretty cool. But and I've never driven a 2300 car yet, so that is going to be fun.
Hey, I got a couple questions here, man. How much does the EP3 weigh, and how do you plan on maintaining traction?
Ooh, EP3 and traction. Well, for the RSXs,
I look up the weight.
The weight, I think it's about the same as the RSX. It's like 27 to 2,600 pounds, or just around 3,000 with driver usually.
I looked it up, but I got it in like kilograms.
Because I mean, EP3 and RSX are basically the same car.
Let me see here, EP3.
Because I know the RSX, at least listed factory weight, is like 2,700 pounds.
Yeah, this one's, I'm seeing 2,654, 27, so 2,700.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
Yeah, by the time it's got a blower on it and a driver, it'll definitely be like that sub 3,000, or at least that's the goal. So I mean,
you take out the back seats.
Maybe we might keep them. I don't really know yet. We haven't gotten that far as like planning goes.
Yeah.
I want to go like full wide body just to put as much tire as we can on it. For traction, it's definitely going to be tire. Anybody who's seen the blue RSX already knows that we're all about tire. That thing was running 285s and at one point 305s in the front of that thing. So that's what pulled fenders, and we had like little brackets holding the back ends out. But
how wide were the tires? I mean, the wheels, 10-inch?
Wheels, let me remember. I think it was 10-inch.
10-inch.
Or 11-inch. I know that my RSX that I had growing up, that was on a 19.5 width on a 265 for a daily setup on 18-inch wheels.
You mean 9.5?
9.5.
You said 19.5.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was a 9.5 wide wheel on a 265. So they gave it a bit of a slight stretch look, but it didn't look anything out of place for like a factory car. But I definitely, even then I was spinning second to third. First would be useless unless I throttled down. But then again, me and my dad have never really been drivers where we're just sort of full throttle and let the car do what it does.
Yeah.
We're not opposed to letting out to try to get traction, but definitely would like in the future to start playing around with like traction control. And once you get past 500 horsepower, it's a completely different ball game as far as feel and stuff, especially at that weight.
Yeah.
So you see, you're pulling up Instagram, you get some of the stuff. So
Yeah,
I wish
'cause we're
this is
talking
one thing
about
I
it.
always messed up with me is that, like, for somebody my age, I should be using social media a whole lot more. And I don't know. I guess I've just never been a social media guy, but yeah. So
No,
we're
yeah,
running
dude, just
ASP
like
headers that we used to run on the race car from the RSX. So those pretty much bolt right up. Obviously, we got to pull some stuff out, but so yeah, I had to pull the heat shielding, the little steering rack brakes that goes in between the two frame rails. So there's a little bit of clearancing issues, but I'll be adding stuff like that back later. To sort of bring some stiffness in the car, because the last thing we need that thing to do is be floppy at that kind of horsepower range.
Is that's a K24A2?
This is a K24A2, stock crank, pistons and rods. I think we're Brian Crower, whatever their first upgrade is for the rods. It's got like the upgraded bolts in it, and then Weiscoat pistons. We're running that one about 11-1 compression, or
So
10
you
and a
know
half
what?
to 1. It's either 10 and a half or 11-1 compression. I have to look back at the sheet for it, but
I watched a another live stream from VTech Academy,
Hmm.
and they were talking about the K9th gen again. People, for some reason, I'm telling you, 9th gen is starting to pick up some steam. People are starting to
people are
look
starting to
into it.
buy them again.
Yeah, and this one guy said he swapped his. He said a K24A2 bolts directly in a 9th gen. You just got to change the timing chain cover and something else. And he said it's an easy swap.
Yes, it's an easy swap as long as you have the solutions for the two issues that you have.
Yeah,
So one thing is, obviously, mounts and stuff are going to be about the same. The biggest change is where they put the crank sensor, because on a
yeah,
9th gen
that's
they
what
put
it
the
was.
crank
Yeah.
sensor right off of there's a reluctor wheel and on the crank, closer to the flywheel, whereas the all the other older K series were all coming right off the crank pulley, basically. Which there's been somebody who has a solution for that going backwards compatible. So if you're trying to run a Z3 on like an older ECU system for like an RSX or something like that, or in this case it's for Miatas, but they have a whole valve cover that's specifically for that motor that has the crank sensor in the front of the engine. So you use like a standard K24 crank sensor. That way you just leave the stock sensor for the 9th gen in there and don't use it, or vice versa,
Yeah, I think the very popular K20 head swap that everyone's doing these days is probably the better option, because then you don't have to go
That'll
down
definitely
there
be the
into the
option there.
block.
Because I don't even know if the the factory 8th 9th gen, or does the 8th gen? No, the factory 9th gen computer can even handle trying to run a stock sensor like that, or if it has the logic to pick up, because it's obviously a different like tooth pattern
Oh, okay.
for the Hall effect sensor. So you have basically I don't know, I want to say like a 4-inch wheel with little teeth around the outside that it picks up on, whereas like the stock K series is like a 2-inch wheel with like 6 teeth on it. So obviously it's going to be picking up more or less signal per RPM. So, but I mean, if the guys over at Honda are able to put some kind of option in there, it would open it up completely, because then people would just drop factory K24 Z2 or A2s in it.
Yeah, I think there was a guy. He did a K24A2 and a 9th gen. I gotta watch the video. What kind of? I don't know if he went complete standalone like Motec or something. I'll have to watch that video again.
Yeah.
So Nate, do you know anything about? See, I don't know anything about this stuff. An air locker differential. Is that like
air
a
locker? Like they use air to actuate the locking on the diff?
Well, that's what the Ford trucks do, man.
Yeah, that's I don't know if we have any kind of like active diff stuff available for us on the Honda side. It'd be amazing if somebody developed something for that, but
yeah, I mean the best. Hold on. just to keep things in line here,
Mhm.
were you guys trying to do the all-wheel drive conversion on the old RSX or on the EP3?
We were originally going to do it on the race car, but as far as I can tell, and I mean, he changes his mind about this pretty regularly, but
Yeah, one night he almost sold me that car.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
He's like,
Yeah, that's it.
he's like,
So
I'm done. I'm done.
it's
You
the
can have it.
blue car is a love hate with that thing because he feels like he's never going to be able to go racing again like he used to. But I always tell him just keep it around. It's not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the all-wheel drive, I'm going to try and push for it to go in the EP3. We have mounts for it now. For the rear end, I forget who it's from, but it's the same guy that 90% of the people out here get it from. So we'll definitely start playing with that once the car is running and everything, because he's eventually just going to be like, all right, we have no traction. I can't do anything with the car.
Yeah.
So all-wheel drive is definitely coming to something.
Like,
Whether or not it be the race car or the EP3, definitely not my Miata, but yeah, the Audi has got him convinced that all-wheel drive is a very good, very thought-worthy platform for that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I mean, right now, as far as like information goes for like what works and what doesn't, it's like most of the all-wheel drive stuff is all the drag guys. And they just care about going straight. So
Yeah.
testing for diffs and stuff in the corner is still sort of up in the air, or at least the information isn't clear in front of people right now. So that'd definitely be something to, once we learn a little bit more about that, definitely share to people.
Yeah. And dude, one thing I wanted to make clear, if anyone's wondering why Jose is not here, um last minute he just realized he's got way too much work going on, and customers
Really.
emailing him like, where's my stuff? So I
Mm-hmm.
don't think he's going to join us today. He might be listening, but um I know he's trying really hard to catch up with a lot of orders from a few folks.
Yeah.
um
We just got
so
a whole bunch of Audi heat exchangers in the last couple of days, so we've been putting out orders for that because it's easy. It's slap a label on, put the box out, but
yeah.
um, that only takes so long. But trying to pack actual supercharger kits has been a big deal the last couple of days. Because
Okay.
we're starting to have a lot of the stuff that we need in stock finally, and Chinese New Year is coming up, so we've been putting out orders to get stuff in to make sure that we're ahead of that. Whether or not it's going to come in on time, I don't personally know because I don't handle logistics as much.
Yeah.
But obviously, we hear you guys. We care.
So let's
I
talk
hate
about this
being
pump.
the.
What is this pump we have on the screen here?
Oh yes, this pump, loud. Uh,
Hans
Loud
is
in my
running this
opinion.
pump, right?
Yeah, Hans is running this pump as his daily setup.
And
Um,
so is this the same one that Tony's using, or he's got the other one I have?
no,
He
Tony's
has.
using the CWA pump.
Yeah.
Okay.
His is smaller.
It's smaller and it runs a three. Oh my god, is it 3/8 or 3 1/4? 3 1/4 hoses. This one actually runs a 1 inch hose in and out, and it flows a lot more.
Yeah.
It flows a lot more. It's got mostly the biggest thing for me is that it's got a lot more pressure. I mean, that
Mhm.
pump's basically designed to run engines. So yeah, it's definitely not playing with as much water volume it has to deal through. But it's definitely, I would recommend it for a race car that wants to keep it in, they don't care if it's loud. Because I mean, a lot of you guys have probably heard like external fuel pumps. It's somewhere on that level of, it's a loud external pump, especially if it's got air bubbles in it. It's super loud. We found that out the hard way for a little bit. But I would definitely recommend anybody who wants to go crazy with that pump, large water reservoir to keep an overhead of water on that thing, because if it runs out of water, it will get angry. But it's also sort of nice because it's got electronic controller. Obviously, we recommend this for the bigger S6 guys. That's what that bracket's for. But like Audi S6 guys, they're running twin turbo V8s with that thing, and obviously that's a lot of pump for them either, or as well. But they at least have water volume in the system to sort of absorb some of that pressure shock, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, well, they're running 2 cores in the manifold, right?
Yeah,
Versus
exactly. They're running a core
our-
twice as big as what we do.
Yeah. So there's your difference there.
Yeah.
Tell us about this. What is this other
Oh,
junk
this
you
poor
got here?
thing. My poor car has been sitting outside ever since. Oh my god, I haven't touched it since we did your motor build almost. And it's mostly just because it's gotten cold and I can't bring it inside right now because we're working on somebody's car. So
the car's outside, or is this engine
the car is
and
outside. The
transmission?
engine's in the car.
Okay.
Which I'm just now realizing that I didn't post any pictures, or at least I don't think I post any pictures on my Instagram with it actually having a blower on it. But yeah, no, engine and trans are installed in the car right now, or at least it's mounted up. So for fitment at least. But I still got to make an oil pan for it. We're developing an oil solution for wheel drive guys right now. That should hopefully be coming in a month or so. Or at least I'm holding my fingers. I haven't gotten too much of an update on that one yet, but
yeah, that's this.
And oh yeah, there we go.
The Miata.
Yeah, so crazy. It's actually easier to put a K series in the normal rear-wheel driveway than it is to actually remove and install the stock motor. And I don't even think it's that much shorter. It's just something with the way that the height and stuff. So you sort of see there the crank pulley
on the Miata than the
Miata engine.
Motor on the Miata. Okay.
Yeah. There's something with the crank pulley and the way the oil pan is situated that you sort of drag the freaking oil pan over the top cross member there.
Yeah.
But yeah, using a standard K Miata adapter and factory Miata clutch right now. Eventually, I'll also get swapped out for like a BMW ZF transmission. That'll be able to hold big horsepower, and that way I'll be able to go past my 400 mark. But the transmission is sort of iffy around, 300-400 horsepower. So who knows? It's basically the equivalent to me running a stock K series transmission right now.
Matt's asking if you're considering going with a dry sump.
Dry sump. I would love to go a dry sump if the cost wasn't so high for
They're so expensive.
Like I would do a dry sump in a heartbeat if I had time for it, or not time, money for it. Because I mean, some setups are what, $5,000 starting, if not more. I've seen upwards of 15 grand for an ultra. It's there for race teams, and a good baffling and a good, even like a ported factory pump, I'm more than comfortable just running. I'm just going to run a Type S pump on the K24 and run it from there, and just, we're developing the oil pan ourselves, so it might not go be like a production thing, but definitely going to try and do baffling and everything that we need for that.
Yeah, that's one thing we didn't get to do with mine.
Putting baffles in the pan.
But I do want to do baffling.
Yes.
I don't know.
Baffling is nice.
What I do realize is to do it, and we didn't do it basically because
it was out of stock, right?
It was out of stock, and they were like way behind.
Yeah.
And we were at the point where like you guys were coming, and I was like, okay, I don't have time for it right now. But I realized I gotta drop the subframe to get the oil pan out.
Yeah, realistically, it shouldn't be too bad. I mean, this is nothing that you haven't already done at this point.
I know. I'm just talking from a lazy standpoint.
Oh yeah.
Do I really want to? I'll.
You could do it in a weekend, easy.
I'll actually do it. Yeah, I could do it in a day.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's 4 bolts. You can let the subframe hang if you want to.
That's what I might do.
Yeah. At least there's no lines or anything going under there.
Yeah. Matt saying I was thinking a shallow oil pan would give you clearance.
Absolutely. Because we're going to have to run it. There's enough room to sort of run, because what I'm going to do is modify a factory steel pan and sort of do the cutout for the steering rack and the front subframe. And then I'm going to try and add as much sump. So we're sort of moving the pickup for the sump to the rear of the engine. And then it's going to be basically a feed tube that picks up, goes over the steering rack, if you know where that is, and then up to the front
Yeah.
of the pump, because you still have to have a hump for the front of the pump because it's still driven off the timing chain. And luckily that just barely clears the rack, but I have to depower the steering rack. Or in my case, I'm trying to figure out if I can move the feed and return for the power steering rack and that, but that's still up in the air. I'm not there yet. And then there's always electric steering racks are available for, or at least the steering shaft. They have like a modified one that includes a engine, motor, and stuff like that. So that's all on the table. But I'm just gonna try and get the car running first, and deal with it from there.
Yeah, you
Sort of
gotta
plan
get
this
there
stuff
with
out
a
here.
few. You gotta get there with a few cars, because like you have,
I got a lot of projects working on right now.
you got that green race car that's like a 10-second Jackson Racing RSX.
Yes, that one's gonna be insane. That one's going up to 1900, and it's getting cooling done. That one's gonna be air to water on a air to air manifold, so that way basically your cooling is modular. So he can, put a bigger cooler, put a smaller cooler, mess around with water tanks and stuff like that if he wants to. It's been a pretty basic build, but it's just taken us a long time because we've been caught up with like trying to do orders, and we've been traveling a lot, working on your stuff, Hans' stuff. And the guy's great. He's been very patient with us, and luckily he hasn't needed it for his race season because of all this stuff with COVID. So we've been keeping it lax, trying to do good work on it. And I've been cleaning up some of the work that's been done already on it. So that one hopefully should be running in the next week or two. Because when I come back up to you for second dyno day, the goal is sort of like to bring that one up on the trailer and drop that one off in, I believe, New Jersey area, and go from there after I meet up with you. But
that's on the way back.
Yes, yeah. So that'd be after your thing. So
yeah, no, that's gonna be a busy day because I do plan on going to see. I guess. Oh yeah, you came last time. Going to see the why am I drawing a blank?
The NSX
240.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I plan on seeing Joe with the 240. Maybe I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, he's got a crazy project going on over there.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I'm biting off more than I can chew, but I think I should be okay. I got a video here of the. No, that can't be it. That RSX is not turbo too, right?
The
crap.
The NSX or the RSX?
The RSX. Sorry, I'm jumping around topics here. The race car, the drag car you guys got out there.
No, that one's just supercharged. That was on a JSRC or JRSC. I always messed that up.
I'm trying to find pictures because I know you guys posted pictures somewhere. Oh well. But yeah, I wanted to go see his car or whatever, but I might make that a second trip down there. I don't know because I had so much fun reviewing that K20 race car. I'm trying to get a picture of that thing out here. I kind of like want to do more, but I don't want to just check out Hondas. But
I mean, he's got a cool RB swapped 240 out there. That'd be insane.
Yeah, that RB40 is just sick.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to get you for not an interview, a review of the EP3 and Miata once those are done. That'd be crazy. See if we can bring all the cars up.
You guys are planning? You want to bring the car up?
I would love to bring the EP3 and Miata. I mean, of course, once they're running and stuff, but
I thought I was gonna come down. But yeah, no, that
either or. We're not picky.
That works. I'm trying to get Andrew's car out here. It's funny. I show up and the car's like filthy. I'm not trying to talk trash about Andrew. He knows I love him. The car is literally filthy.
Oh yeah. It's in build mode right now.
We gotta clean this up. But yeah, I don't know. I had a good time doing that. I think also it's like the fact that I got away from here. um, and
Oh, yeah.
just seeing like the weather's so much better down there. Like
Yeah.
60s in the morning,
Community's tight out there,
70s.
man.
Just, I mean, I kind of want to see what it's like in the summer. I mean, I know
Mhm.
Orlando in the summer sucks,
Yeah. There's
but
humidity.
Tampa might be different.
Tampa might be different because it's more north for them. So definitely Orlando areas gets pretty humid, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, I don't, I don't mind the heat. I never
Yeah.
have. So, we got another question. Nate, can you speak of pros and cons of water to air, IC versus air to air?
Oh yeah. So if you're running a air-to-air manifold from us, which would be the one with the two tubes coming out, is basically blower in, blower out, or blower out, engine in, as far as that goes. But yeah, it's definitely air to water versus air to air. Sort of one of those things where it's use case and whatever you prefer. If you want to have a big intercooler running out of the front of your car that looks like it's turboed and everybody asked you to spool it up, ask me how I know. Then air to air with an intercooler is definitely going to be the way to go. Also, with that, the IATs that you get from that, your peak IATs are most likely very, very commonly going to be lower on a standard intercooler that you would use for a turbo, but that's peak. If you're sitting at a light or if you're drag racing where you don't have a ton of airflow for a while, it's going to take time to cool down your IATs or to cool down your heat soak that you're going to have in the cooler and the piping. Air to water, I just find it to be very stable. When I was air to air manifold, and air to water core, we were running a Garrett 500 horsepower core, and I was seeing 110 IATs, and it would never really go above that, regardless of what the temperature was. Obviously, it'd be colder in the winter, but um, if you follow any of our Audi stuff, you see how stable that stuff gets. Because I mean, especially for them, is a little weird because they have small uh, blower side cores, so their cooling is a little bit lackluster. But with air to water, and the beauty of that manifold is that yeah, it's a bit more work, but you have any option of cooling that you want. Um,
Got it.
so yeah,
Now,
cooling basically just scales to what you want it to be at that point.
yeah, 'cause I mean, like I remember when your dad first got that manifold, the air to air manifold.
Mhm.
We were all like, "Oh man, this is gonna be like the next big thing. It's gonna be fantastic and whatever." Um, but
And it is. It's a
unfortunately,
lot of work for people, and
it's a
that's
lot of
why
work for
we
people.
ended up doing the air to water as a big option. And the majority of the stuff that's out now is air to water for what we do. Because
And it
it
makes
makes more
sense.
sense for somebody trying to daily drive their car.
Yeah, because hoses are easier to route than like having to go weld your own piping.
Matthew just brought up a great point that I forgot. Throttle response is a big deal, especially if you have drive-by-wire. Some people say they don't feel it. Some people say they feel it a lot. I'm personally one of those guys who's somewhere in the middle, where it all depends on your tuner. Because I've had situations where me and my dad sort of tune it ourselves, and though we're not professionals at all, we get something to where we're comfortable with it, right? Where we get very good driving characteristics out of it. When I had my RSX that was drive by cable, I had almost zero complaints as far as throttle response goes. But on eighth gen and Tony, with his eighth gen will agree to this. There's some kind of weird lag or surge that happens that makes really small tip in stuff for like trying to leave from stoplights or doing traffic stuff just a little finicky. It takes a little bit of learning, but realistically, if you want to learn how to drive the car like that, it'll be fine. You're not going to put your car in danger in any sort of way. It's a weird thing with like the pressure and the piping that builds up because it's a positive displacement system, whereas a turbo is constantly under vacuum until you're in boost. Your blower setup is sort of have some positive pressure in there. So you let off, there's that residual amount of air still in the piping that the engine has to process. So there's a little bit of piping. So that again is another reason to go air to water for an air to air manifold setup. Because you can shorten up all your piping. With an air to air, you see some guys that we have where they run the piping all the way around the outside of the car, through the cooler, and then all the way back. So it's not something that's gonna like break your experience for the car, but it's definitely gonna be different. Or rather, there's improvements to be made there. I think if you saw any of my early stuff, we had the core right on top of the transmission, just to make the piping shorter. And even then, we actually dropped it down to just in front of the transmission, down on the floor, behind the radiator. That ended up being the best situation for me, but that was mostly just testing at that point. But yeah, I recommend air to air for anybody doing a race car. Anything big horsepower, if you're trying to get over 500 horsepower, it definitely goes air to air manifold. We recommended it for our NSX guy with his swap because it makes the most sense, and also he's just running a cable throttle. I've not felt any issues from there.
Quick question. Someone asked, and I haven't really. I've been supercharged for like a year. Hans, you've been at this for a while. How often do we or should we change our coolant in the air to water system? That's like a
I don't know. I've changed mine. When's the last time I changed it? I guess when we upgraded the pump,
Yeah.
and that was probably what, Nate, about a year. But I don't know. I don't know the interval. Like I don't know the interval of it.
I would treat it like coolant, honestly, because the other thing too is that you're not putting 200 degrees of engine temp through it either.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just one of those things where I keep an eye on it every other fuel or every other fuel up. I'll just pop the cap on it, check it. But realistically, you treat it like any other cooling system. There's no special coolant that you need to run in it. Just don't run hose water or tap water in it, because you will get like a calcium deposits, just like you get in a engine block if you put it in there too. So my go-to is usually straight distilled water, a little bit of water butter or coolant depending on what your climate is, because obviously you don't want it to freeze because that'll cause a lot of issues. But no, it's not a very high stress system for as far as it goes.
Would you use 100% coolant or not?
I would do 100% 50-50 mix, like how you would do for your engine. But I would not run 100% coolant, because then you're just going to start losing cooling capacity, and that's sort of the same thing with water. But I mean, anything that's there to keep your coolant from freezing, you'll be fine.
Yeah, vodka.
Yeah.
Just said water wetter. Water wetter is a, oh my gosh, they have like a Barry, could you pull up a picture of that if possible?
Yeah,
it's like a little green bottle.
I actually have
you
some.
see at like AutoZone.
I had some in my garage.
Water wetter. I think it's made by Redline.
I think so.
It's a pink bottle, really.
Yeah.
It looks like Pepto Bismol, only like.
Yeah.
It's just it's one of those like fluids that you used it. We had a very good experience with it. It helps with frothing and making sure that, especially if it's a fresh cooling system, it takes time to bring all those micro bubbles out. So like when you put your straw in like some Sprite or whatever, you get all those little bubbles that show up on the straw. You sort of have that same thing inside the cores of your heat exchanger and your actual cooling core for your supercharger. So you're always going to have a little bit of micro bubbles. Some cars really like it or really hold on to them. Some don't. It's one of those things where once you put some heat cycles on it, it'll take care of itself. But yeah, like literally one of these, like half a bottle of it or whatever because I think they have you like at like I think one bottle of those will do like 20 gallons or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I remember I used it once, like for actual, like for the engine, and I think it called for like 2 capfuls or something like
Yeah,
that. It's very
it's something
efficient.
crazy like that. So don't run your whole thing full of it, but it's one of those like things where it's like you use what works for you. Because realistically, our system's not going to be picky. Your engine's realistically not that picky. As long as you're not, trying to rust out the sleeves, you'll be fine as far as that goes. But yeah, it's just find something that works. I know some people are like running ice boxes. And they'll run just straight distilled water and change it every week if they want to. But it's not that bad.
Yeah. No, it's really not a very complex thing. Not something you have to like, think about constantly. Um,
Yeah, go.
it's just, if anything, when the weather changes, when it gets hot, check and see what your temperatures are, and you know, I think if if you get worried about your temperatures, just look at your levels. Make sure you don't have any leaks of any kind. Um, but as long as you clamp that stuff down properly, like it just shouldn't leak. Once it's sealed, it's sealed.
Oh, definitely.
But you never know. Things fail. Like if you have a hose, if you installed it up against something sharp, could be rubbing up whatever. Um, but I do. That's why I like the setup. It's not something that I feel like I have to keep monitoring and checking or whatever. Obviously, like I changed that pulley last week,
Hmm.
so that's something. Okay, just like anything else you do mechanically, it's like you make sure that you know the belt is not getting shredded for some dumb reason or whatever.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on it. Be sensitive to any new noise. Um, but you know,
Yeah.
after a couple of days, start doing burnouts. Start
Hmm.
doing burnouts, man.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where like this is sort of how I feel about all cars, whether or not it's modified or not. So the more you monitor it and the more you take care of stuff, you're not going to have as many issues as you think you would. Um, people go, oh, you boost your car, you put your car at risk. Maybe if you're just, you boost it and all you do is put oil on it and, you know, redlined it every day, you're not checking anything. Um, I know the three of us are a little bit more minded as far as that goes. So we're always checking, either data logs or, we get a O2 sensor here or IETs there, but just keep your ear to the floor as far as that your car goes, and you should be pretty good as far as any of that goes.
We got a slight request.
Hmm.
Someone here, he's actually a YouTuber too, Prophet R3. If you don't follow him, you should follow him. He does some pretty good videos. Has a nice build. He reached out to me some time ago because he blew up his Craftworks kit. Um, not I mean like he did it on purpose or whatever, but
Hmm.
Matt's saying like that's a good topic. He wants to hear what our um, thoughts are on the Craftworks supercharger.
Buy it.
Um,
We'll
yeah,
start with
no, you
Hans
guys go first.
because
You
Nate,
guys
you've
go
been
first.
talking way too much.
I wouldn't buy it. It has too many issues. So some of you guys might know, might not know. Before I bought the Merc Racing kit, I was torn between getting Craftsworks or going with Merc Racing. Or shit, I was even thinking about Turbo. But it came down to Craftswork and Merc Racing, and the Craftsworks is cheaper, so it's real appealing to a lot of people. I could make, if your goal is like 350, 360, I can make 350, 360 with the Craftworks a lot cheaper than the Merc Racing kit. However, with the Craftsworks kit, the centrifugal supercharger, I guess the weight, something with the internals, you bounce it off the rev limiter, it has a chance where that supercharger will blow. Something with the bearings inside. And people have posted on YouTube. There's a couple guys that I followed, and their Craftswork kit just, that's what happens. It messes up. Also, Craftsworks, centrifugal. Look, if you're gonna go Craftsworks, go turbo. Don't waste your time with the Craftworks.
Mhm.
Look, it's the worst of both worlds, right? You don't get power till peak, which is like a turbo, turbo lag. You don't get your peak power till up top. It has no low end torque, and it's a parasitic loss to your motor. So it's not a great system. I don't understand why people do it. Like V8s, yeah, because they have that low end torque and they want more up top power. But with motors like ours, don't waste your time. It's a waste of time. It's trash. Don't get it. And for example, go look up a Craftsworks kit that has 380 wheel horsepower. Go to my dyno sheet on my IG. I think I posted it. And look at the dyno sheet and compare it to my 384. The graphs are totally different. The Craftsworks kit graph is like this. Mine is like, it's like the power and torque comes up so quick and it goes up. It jumps up and then goes up. Craftswork is like, it starts on the bottom and then finally you hit 380. You know what I'm saying? Even with the torque, it's the same thing. You finally hit 250 wheel torque. Dude, I'm at 250 wheel torque at 2,500 RPM, and then it's going to climb up to like 300, 305, and it's flatlined. You're not going to win any races. You're going to get beaten by 350Zs with bolt-ons. It's not it's trash. Don't get it.
Yeah. I want to race one. There's a
Yeah,
guy
I
in
want
New
to race
Jersey.
one.
There's a guy in New Jersey that has one. He got reviewed by Gerb, and
Oh yeah,
I might see if Gerb will put me in touch with him to see like what is the difference between the two. Look, the Craftworks it's more, yeah. Matt's like, I think I touched nerve. No, dude, this dude is just excited about this stuff.
Yeah, no, he's just vocal. That's all it is.
Yeah, I just want to see like differences, like, you know, shots fired. I like the crowd today, man. That's funny. Can you keep a thought straight? Yeah, here's my first experience with a Craftworks or something like that. Back when I had the RSX and it was boosted with a supercharger and whatever. I remember I was talking to Derek and we were tuning my car and I'm like, hey, what's the deal with these Craftworks? They look kind of like, and back then you had to give up your air conditioning if you wanted the supercharger kit. For me, that was like, no, not doing that. He just said that they're trash. The way they build boosts is just awful. He's like, and like you said, they're like the worst of both worlds. You get the parasitic loss, right? But you don't get the, I don't know, the power level that you might get from a turbo that's the same size as that compressor. So yeah, I would, if I was like, okay, I definitely don't want a Merc Racing kit, I would just go with the turbo at that point. Because the Craftworks, and you just, like you said, you can't bounce off the rev limiter. It's not like that's something I do every single day, but it happens. The other day I was doing a dyno pull and like I destroyed my third gear, like not like just not that I broke a gear, but like I just shredded the tires, like, and then I ended up like bouncing off the rev limiter. No problem. Go to fourth. I still broke traction, but like I don't have to worry about my supercharger like falling apart or anything like that. Which
And
once you're spending that much money, just
and with the Craftwork, look, the centrifugal is really dependent on RPM. Let's say you had the pulley for 16 psi. That's 16 psi at your, let's say your rev limiter is at 8,000. It's 16 psi way up top, meaning at like 4,000 RPM, it's only at 8 pounds. It's stupid. It's a buildup of boost. It's so retarded. I really don't understand why people get it. With a positive displacement, it's like adding a fucking motor to your motor. It's like a 1900. It's 1.9 liters of air going into your motor. We get peak boost just like that. That's why our torque levels are so much higher in the beginning. Craftworks is just a build up. Go to perfect example. Go to LHT Performance. They do installs for Craftworks on night gen, and look at their graphs. They push 350, 360. Look at their piece of shit torque curve and their piece of shit torque numbers. You ain't beating nobody. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. Do not get it. Trust me, you'll be so disappointed. You're gonna be like, I spent 5-6 grand. It's a piece of shit. I'm losing to full bolt-on 370Z. What the fuck?
Yeah. No, especially when you see like the guy I reviewed last week, his car, he posted a video on Instagram where he was keeping up with like a PRL turbo kitted ninth gen. And we're like, why is this? I mean, number one, his car's lighter. His car's gutted. But still, his car's making like 280 or something like that.
Yeah.
Versus 380 or something like that, from the turbo car. But it's just the fact that like we saw in my races when I raced your friend, you know, unless the boost was ready when he did the brake boosting,
Mm,
like it wasn't even the same league. It's just like we take off, and
yeah.
it's crazy. Like I'm still not used to it with this bigger blower. Like all my pulls, they end at like 100 because it's just insane the rate of speed that we're starting to carry when you like start making power. I kind of want to hear what Nate has to say because Nate's over here just like
Um,
listening to us like
yeah.
rambling.
He's gonna say
I
it's
mean,
trash.
I'm not. No, I definitely feel like it's a choice that people have, right? It's one of those things where it's a technology that works for the V8 guys that got carried over, and people managed to market it to a point where it seems a lot cheaper. It may actually be a lot cheaper, um, but at the end of the day, you're trying to spool a turbo with a belt that's never going to have the same RPM. It's never going to be able to, the same inducer, or I'm sorry, the compressor RPM is never going to be the same. You're going to build boost a whole lot differently because the turbo builds boost based on not only how much air you're flowing out of your engine, but how much heat is there as well. You don't have that with this with the centrifugal. The efficiency just isn't there for, at least for us, as far as like what we want out of the car. And I feel like for the whole four cylinder platform, it doesn't really work because the four cylinder, it's a high RPM thing that doesn't have a whole lot of torque down low. Whereas you're having, because you got crazy V8 centrifugal supercharged drag cars that are making like 2000 RPM, no problem, or 2000 horsepower, no problem. But they have that download torque. They have a big, 6 liter engine, making up that torque fill, right? You just want boost on top of that to get you, more cylinder pressure than what you already have. And it makes sense for them. Now, if you were going to run, like a Craftsworks kit or any centrifugal kit for a 4 cylinder, I would just go with a smaller turbo.
Yeah.
Because you can get a turbo to spool really quickly. My stupid Miata had a tiny ass turbo on it, and that shit spooled ridiculously for what it was. It impressed me because you got the torque curve that you sort of wanted. I still wanted more because I'm used to supercharger stuff. My first car was supercharged, and so that was like my baseline, right? So I got sort of spoiled that way. But I still wasn't satisfied with, at that point I was losing top end on it because it was so small. So one of the things that is very popularized right now, or at least in the whole, 4 cylinder or even import performance market, is that like superchargers are the same as they were in the 40s, where you lose 50% of your horsepower to make an extra 5 horsepower. But that's not the case anymore. The TVS and Eaton blower, or all the Eaton blowers now, are way more efficient than they've ever been. You're only looking at like a 20%, 30% parasitic loss on like their charts. That's not even like the same use cases of what we're doing either. Um, so when you're gonna do a 500 horsepower turbo setup, I would go TVS or any kind of positive displacement blower like that. Um, would just work, because there's something with the way that the superchargers are always based on RPM, right? And they make their air volume really low because of the way that you're using screws to move air, right? And you're always going to have your surge of air volume, right? Because all these things are compressors. Engines aren't magical; they're just air compressors.
They're pumps, yeah.
If you're putting more air into the engine earlier, you're going to make more air coming out. And in the middle, you're going to make more power. Um, oh man, I'm like ranting a little bit. Like I'm like heating up here. I'm trying to like.
You want to take a break? You want to take a break? Because I wanted to say something about just a quick comment. Someone said that LHT they love the Craftworks blowers on their S2000 builds, and this reminds me of a time that someone was like, "Hey, let's this dude we were autocrossing and he had an NA S2000, and then like halfway into the season he put like a centrifugal supercharger on it. Might have been Craftworks, and so he takes me for a spin. He's like, "Dude, I want you to feel the power," and like he floors it, and I'm like, you know, and at the time, I think I was turbo, and I'm like, this, it just feels really dull. Like I was like, no,
Yeah.
I don't feel the power. But I mean, like, was the car quicker? Absolutely. And if you want to talk about the S2000, there's a guy called Engineer and Explain, or he runs a channel called Engineer and Explain, very popular. He did a series where he bought an S2000 and he compared like the acceleration from whatever
Yeah.
60 to 100, and it was like it was actually slower down low, but once it hit like VTEC 6000 RPM, yes, it was quicker, but you know, like I don't know.
You lost the
I
race by then.
my my supercharger and my car, like I know it's more powerful from like 2000 RPM all the way to 8000.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I'm not revving to like 8000, dude. That's like a great thing to have.
Yeah, it feels like a Honda again.
Almost, almost, because I don't have the real VTEC still. But yeah, um, that might happen. That might happen next year. I don't know.
Now, I mean, with the centrifugal, if you want to keep the same characteristics of the car, then go ahead and do it.
Mhm.
Because it keeps the same characteristics. What it does is if your stock graph is like this, your horsepower, and you got two graphs like this, only thing it does, here's stock, it just moves it up like this. Like,
Mhm.
what I'm trying to say? It's almost the same. It's like this. It
Yeah,
keeps
it's
the
like
same
it doesn't drive
characteristic.
like a boosted car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. To each his own. I just think I've been disappointed. There are Kraftwerks, actually Skunk 2, they own Kraftwerks, right? If you go online on YouTube, I think this video is like 6, 7 years old. They took random customers for a spin. You could just look it in their faces. It was in Kraftwerks 9 Gen, and none of them were impressed. They're just like, oh yeah, man, it's fast, but you could tell they're lying, you know? And then there's a guy that had a Kraftwerks kit on 9 Gen, and he went out racing. And I think that's what did it. I'm like, okay, he's pushing like 380, 370, whatever. And then he started losing all these races. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, this is probably a piece of shit. So that was like the final straw, man. Don't spend money in it. People want their car to go faster. You're gonna race. I hate when people say, "Oh, I don't race." Bitch, shut up. You do race. You find some guy you want to race, whatever, and to spend that kind of money and then to lose, it's gonna be heartbreaking, and it's just I don't know, whatever. But get
I'm
it
gonna
if you want.
defer to Nate. I'm gonna defer to you on this question. So someone asked, and I know like half of this stuff. TVS rotors have a degree of twist in them. The old Eaton Gen 3 and 4 rotors really didn't. Are the TVS head units more like Lysholm head units or Whipple? Now, I know that the Lysholm is a twin screw.
Yes.
Now, from my understanding, from talking to your dad, the the whatever lobes are all Magnuson lobes, right?
They're all Eaton lobes.
Eaton lobes.
Yes.
Okay.
Eaton makes the lobes for Magnuson as well. So basically,
Only thing that
Magnuson and Harrop, they're basically just case manufacturers, and we're running the same Eaton internals as far as that goes.
right. Yeah, and you can see it there about in your picture. It says Eaton on it.
Oh yeah.
Your background there.
Oh yeah, that's got the it's a Harrop blower Eaton internals. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what makes it different is Harrop made a more compact design with their casing,
Mm-hmm.
and you could definitely see the difference. Like when I saw Hans's supercharger, it looks like a fat turkey, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Mine
no,
is
it
more
looks like a traditional supercharger. It's got
Yeah.
that. It's made for V8 guys by V8 guys type of
You
deal.
should know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And something else, I know that the Lysholm spins in opposite direction to the blowers we got. Someone's like, is it towards each other? I can't remember at this point.
Oh my gosh, I remember
I think so.
doing
I
the
think it's
research like years ago, and then being like, okay, cool, I get it, and then I go, okay, it makes boost now, and reverting back to it makes boost. But yeah, so there's two styles, right? And I may have this mixed up as far as which one goes to which, design. But there's the design where they compress in the center, grabs air from the outside, compresses in the center, and then exits at the center. And then there's ones where it pulls air from the center, compresses it against the walls, and then brings it down through exits through the center again. It's sort of hard for me to explain without a diagram, um, but yeah. So the styles aren't incredibly different. Actually, I'm reading what like Dexter's saying. He's correct as far as that goes. I believe. But basically, what happens is that you have pulses for when your screws go. So that's sort of why you hear like, if you hear supercharger stuff in person, you sort of hear like this weird like resonance or like pulsing, or it's like frame rate with like how many hertz you're getting. What I noticed versus, and what my dad noticed versus Whipple and the Lishlum versus the TVS, was that the TVS tends to have a more smooth power band. And honestly, this is just sort of me assuming at this point, but the pulses that you get are spaced closer together, but you're having less air per pulse, but you're doing twice as many pulses. So that's sort of where it evens out. So you're actually getting air volume more consistently than you would than you would from like a Whipple. So it sort of makes the car less, I don't want to say less jerky, but you're making boost smoother over a longer period of time, if that makes sense. And we just felt that it like drives a little bit better. But as far as the Magnuson versus Harrop thing, the biggest deal for us was that we were having a couple issues with getting support from Magnuson at the time of when we changed. So we started looking around and we found Harrop. We reached out. They were very willing to work with us. It seems like they were a little bit smaller, so they cared a little bit more about us. And when we talk to them, the design is nicer from a certain standpoint. If you look at like my background, you can sort of see where it's like not this way, over here. You can see where it sort of like tapers down into the inlet, which is really nice because now you don't have to design that into your inlet where the Whipple and Magnuson, they sort of just cut off and that's it. Now it's a smaller body on the Magnuson, definitely. So if you're looking for space constraints, that'll get you a good like quarter or half inch if you need it. And then the other thing for them was they basically, all the bolts for the inlet and all the bolts for the blower to the adapter plate, they all use the same hardware. So that's less stuff for us to get wrong. And it's also a little bit cheaper because you just order more of the same bolt. So that's sort of like insider view of that. And also Harrop was really nice to work with. They supported us very well. The turnover time is so much better, which is a big deal for you guys because we want to get stuff out quicker. We know we're slow as shit sometimes, and we want to make improvements for you guys. But they were definitely a jump in the right step. Obviously, yeah, a lot of them aren't silver or aren't black anymore, which I know some of you guys wanted. So we've been sort of fighting here and there trying to get a couple of them black, but it happens every once in a while. But they're sort of more of a rare thing. We don't have it quite on the point where we can order, hey, let's order 20 black units today or something like that. But they've just been a lot nicer to work with. They've been a lot more willing to share designs as far as like, can we as far as like doing like CAD work and stuff like that, can we get a design of like the dimensions of the blower stock so I don't have to try and trace this off of a blower that I have here and then try and put it into a program. I can just have the actual measurements and design something off of that. Which was difficult for us to get from Magnuson because I guess they thought we were trying to steal it or something. Which is just, it was one of those things where they they made it seem like we were a lot smaller than we were, or I guess we are a small company, but they did not take us seriously enough to work with us as a company. Is sort of how I personally saw it. I don't know if that's how Jose felt, but that's how I felt about it. And Harrop was definitely a lot more willing to be like, okay, yeah, no, we can help you with stuff that you need, or work with you on, ideas for different blower designs for different applications and stuff like that. So that was just the reason for the big change at Harrop. But I don't know if there's any more questions as far as that goes, but
They have a
No, no.
slimmer. Their casing seems to be a little slimmer.
it's a
It
little
doesn't
bit
look
thinner
like a fat
because
boy.
they don't really put the waffle on it like the Magnuson does.
Yeah,
The waffle.
I like the way the hair looks though.
Yeah.
That's just
Harrop looks nice. It's a nice smooth design. It
Yeah.
definitely changes the way you sort of look up, oh, blower. They all sort of look like a Magnuson. Especially anything that's modern now. But Harrop's definitely got like a more like newer design as far as like stuff goes like that. But
Someone just asked about my rods.
oh yeah,
I try to like focus in on them without. There we go.
there you go.
It's always interesting to be at work doing Zoom meetings. People are like, "Oh, what's that behind you?"
So my old baseball trophies.
Right. They're like, "Oh, you don't golf?" I'm like, "No, I don't golf very much.
Golf. This is my golf.
This is my golf outing." Now I moved and the camera doesn't want to like stay. No, there, stay. Focus. There we go. Let me hide my kid's mess here. There we go. Stay. Dang it. All right. There, stay. I need a better camera mount. If you guys are into photography, let me know if you know if we're good. Damn it. Camera mount. There we go. That's a little better. So yeah, what? Sorry, Nate. I didn't mean to like.
No, you didn't
derail
cut me
the
off.
thing.
I ran out of stuff to talk about. I was like, Herb, nice.
Yeah, good.
Herb, good.
So I'm going back to the dyno again. Mid-February.
Yes.
Honestly, I actually kind of wish it was like in the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dyno
February
2,
is-
Electric Boogaloo.
It's cold. I mean, that's gonna be great for like numbers and stuff, but I don't know. That means that probably in the summertime. I hope that it's at least above freezing, meaning like 40s on dyno day.
Mhm.
Now, let's see, Mikey Mike. So are all the 1900s hair up now and black? I'm not sure what mine is that I ordered back in October. The hair ups, whether they're 1320s or 1900s, they're mostly that silver, whatever, gray finish behind Nate. You guys got a couple black ones in.
Yeah, there was a little bit of testing that happened for a couple people where they got black ones. Obviously, he wanted his personal ones to be black, so the 23 is black. The one for the NSX is black. And I know there's a black 1900 sitting on a stand at home, which I'm not sure if that's for somebody or if that's just. No, I forgot. Yeah, that was a personal one because we were originally going to go 1900 on the EP3. But obviously clinched it. It was supposed to be 1900 on EP3, 23 on race car. But then we went, screw it, EP3 is race car. And went from there. So, yeah, I think most of them are silver right now. A lot of the ones that we're getting in, I know there was like a small testing period, so some people got black.
Now the black ones are a little more cash, right?
I believe so, yeah, because they have the paint that they have them coated, and it's more
But
lead time.
You guys don't.
I don't know. I don't think we offer it yet.
Okay.
I'm actually just gonna text him and see if he says something later.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want black when I go 2300.
Yes.
I want to stay in black.
I'm not doing silver.
Yeah, I feel like it meshes with the inlets a little bit more, but I think the reason for it was mostly Harrop was sort of fighting us on stuff because I know it takes them more. I guess it's more effort for them to just coat our specific head units.
Yeah.
But and I think 90% of what they release is silver too. So, but yeah.
So yeah, we're talking about the dyno before we go too far off here.
Mhm.
You're coming.
Yes.
You're not gonna fly up, right? You're gonna drive up at this point.
Probably not. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I hate to keep making you drive like 12 hours up here.
Yeah. No. Well, luckily, I already have to make another trip up there anyway. So.
Yeah, so it's two birds, one stone at least this time. Yeah, that's gonna be. So I'm not exactly like hung up on, hey, I'm gonna make more power or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because I think like what we have seen with these K24C7 motors, it's like it just may not matter.
Yeah.
Um, you know, besides me and Hans, there's really not a lot of people doing a lot of big boost supercharger stuff to these night gens, right?
Yeah. If you're trying to make 350 to, I want to say 400 just to be safe,
Yeah.
it's definitely possible. And I mean, Hans has sort of proved that, like with with the correct fueling, you're gonna get your car to 400 if you need it.
Yeah.
Or
I
just
mean,
within that
personally,
cusp.
I am hoping I at least match your numbers that you did on 93 pump, which I
I
think you were
think
like
you should.
384.
Unless the 85 is more magical that I'm putting it on for, but you should. I don't see why not.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, no,
Because realistically,
no,
what was happening was that we were running way too many PSI,
Yeah.
and we were reaching the limits of the fuel,
Yep.
and that's sort of what we couldn't put ignition. And we all know that the freaking engine likes ignition.
yeah,
So even the older style stuff, they love 12 degrees plus of ignition.
What PSI you pushing now? 16 with the new
16.
pulley.
So what actually might happen is that we might be lower boost, but we might have to bring it up to like that 17, 18 on the crank, maybe.
Yeah, because
If
when I
you
was at
really
to
want to
increase
get
it.
like on top of his numbers.
well, yeah, when I was at 16 pounds, I was pushing 384,
Yeah.
and I was
So if you
getting no
can match or
knock.
pass that, you'd be good.
Yeah, I think you should be able to
Yeah.
get it. High RPM. 17 would have been ideal, I think. 17, 18.
Yeah.
It does hit 17
It does?
when
Okay.
I
peak.
bounced off the rev limiter at like 8200 RPM.
Yeah. So maybe I don't know what he's doing with cam angles, but maybe he can play around with cam angles, see if that helps a little bit.
You'll hit
You'll
hit 400.
No, I think at that point the cam angle is
So you might be
straight up
locked in
40.
anyways. Yeah.
I don't think that's going to change when we're in closed loop. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for me to make more power than your highest 93 pump power, which is 384 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting hung up on that. Like, I really am very happy with the car. Like, just the drivability. Like, after all this stuff we did to it, man, it's just like it still drives, starts like a normal car. I mean, I'm obviously more careful with like driving it cold. Today was the first time that I like started it, and like I had to pick up my kid from school like last minute, and I was just like, okay, and I was literally like babying the thing today, like
Yeah.
until
You're like,
it came up to the temperature. Like
it's back
I
to
was
rotary
doing,
days.
I was doing like 18 miles an hour in a 25, just like okay,
Yeah.
I just need to coast down this road until things get up to temperature because it's just um now I'm still gonna do the 104 octane.
Yeah.
I did a
We're not
ton of
going
research.
112.
No, 112 is I can only get 112 leaded.
Okay.
And I don't want to deal with leaded fuels because that would just kill my injectors over time.
Yeah.
Or the pump. I don't know. I don't even know if the pump is rated for that. It probably can handle it.
Yeah.
But it from the research that I did, it looks like the biggest gain that I can get is to go ethanol.
Mm-hmm. That'd be
Go up.
your safest bet if you don't want to mess with the engine anymore.
Yeah, and because from I think 100 octane to 104 was like a minimal difference, and again, like the research that I did was like on a Corvette that was I think was supercharged, so the cars are totally different, right? So for me, since I can't get ethanol, I'm just gonna stick to what's easy. The easy thing is to get what the 104 octane, which is down the street from me, and I can always just you know pump it in, like just run the car dry, pump it in, and like I have my two tunes on the Flash Pro, which thank you Hans, you did that like DIY. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know you could like preload your tune and then just press it and tune your shit. So I could alternate tunes and switch at any time, like if I want to. It's not as easy as like the Audis or the JB4 stuff, but still, if I'm at a track, I need my race tune or whatever.
Yeah.
Here, do it. Oh, Matt said if you can run corn, say hello to about 16 miles per hour on a good day.
Oh, miles per gallon.
I'm sorry, 16 miles per gallon.
Yeah.
But you said the price offsets that.
It offsets it. I've calculated it. It's the same thing if I run 93. 93, the highest. Okay, so 93 at 384 horsepower, I was getting about 26 miles a gallon average. Now with E85, I'm getting about, like he said, 16 with more power. However, it's $1 cheaper per gallon. So if you calculate how much it costs to fill up on E85 versus 93, and you take that mileage difference, that $10 worth, and then you calculate whatever, it's about the same. I just got to fill up more. That's all. But the price is the same for my area.
Yeah.
It might be maybe a little bit more expensive, but we're talking like a couple bucks.
Yeah. If you have an hour commute every day, maybe don't go 85. But I mean, even then, it's one of those things. Have a flex fuel sensor when you're feeling 85. Toss some E in it.
Yeah.
Use it as a treat for yourself if you want.
Dax is getting a CSS. He's putting in CSS K20 and upgraded head. Nice, dude.
Cylinder
nice.
Sport Systems.
Looking forward to that. I really want to see a Frankenstein Merc racing car.
CSS. How much boost is he trying to push?
I don't know.
Because I talked to a few people with it. They tell me it's good. I even talked to Four Piston. Four Piston told me straight up, don't think it's bulletproof. It can still crack on certain pounds of PSI. Just look at it as a reinforcement. Yeah. That's why with mine, I'm going a full sleeve because I know I'm going to go super high boost. So I just didn't want to run into that because I told him my everything. He said the CSC or CSS, whatever, it could have been okay, but he said just to make sure, just sleeve it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's one of those
only
things
doing 15 pounds. Yeah.
You're good. You're fine.
He has a 1320. Yeah.
You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
I would honestly like maybe upgrade the crank pulley and see if you could get a bigger crank pulley and even like try to make 17 pounds at that point. Why not?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not trying to go over 20.
Oh man.
Then you're
I was 22 on stock. What was it? Stock Z1 K series. I was doing like 450. I mean, I broke a ringland, but there's something else, Yeah, the K series are really strong. Got really strong sleeves as far as like shifting around and stuff goes. But CSS is definitely, as far as like good, better, best, is definitely
it's the girdle
better.
You got to be worried about. Like blowing a rod through the girdle. It's like obviously your passes.
Yeah, because I mean, I would do rods before I do anything. Or not anything, but if I was gonna touch the motor, I would do rods.
Rods.
I would go springs, rods, and then pistons. But
Pistons,
obviously,
yeah.
I would just do rods and pistons together at that point.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where like, especially on like the 8th and 9th gen motors, I don't know if it's just something with them or if it's just luck of the draw.
Now, Hans, do you know if your sleeves are Darton sleeves or ABS?
I'll find out.
Find out.
Yeah.
We got another question here. This is a good chat today, man. Thanks, guys, for like bringing up all this good stuff and keeping us going. I haven't even realized that we're at like 104 minutes, almost 2 hours, basically. We got Mikey. Mike, he said, I don't know with the mic.
Yeah, Darton's definitely a reputable company. They have a big history. So there's nothing wrong with going along.
For some reason, Jeff, when he did build my car back in the day, he went ABS. I was happy with them. I mean, that's the ones that you guys have in a race car.
Yeah, no.
So
good engine is good engine. So
what would the 1000cc injectors be running at 93 pump gas on a DW 400 with the 19 air to water without a return setup? Will they
1900?
Yeah, you're gonna nearly max them out.
Yeah.
What do you say? Say that again, because that was similar to my setup. Say again.
1000cc injectors.
Okay.
DW 400 though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I got. Okay.
You're gonna be limited by injectors before you're limited by pump. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pump's gonna be fine, but the
pump's
injectors
fine.
are gonna be like.
Yeah, I would go like 12s or 1300s, just to give you that moving range. You'll probably I've hit, 450, 500 on thousands, but a lot of people don't. So.
Wait, does he have a 9th gen?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
That's a good
especially
question.
if he's on a newer engine, then he's going to.
All right. So my car, before we did the returns fuel system, before I switched to E85, when I was pushing 384 at 16 pounds, I was on 1000cc injectors, but I was on the 300 pump, and that I remember Derek was like, "Dude, you're like 70 something, almost 80% duty cycle.
Yeah,
you need to night gen. You need to change your inject. You need to go to a return style fuel system." Or get bigger injectors, and that's when I decided to go return style, and it helped a lot.
Yeah, I will say, Fuel Injector Clinic is really very good. I don't know, like from what I can tell, I used to have the 1050s or 1000cc injectors. I upgraded to the 1440, and it took one revision for Jeff to figure out the pulse width on them. So it's not like they were like a pain in the ass to tune. They're barely a little bit louder than the 1000 cc's, and I think because I didn't go with injector dynamics. I think Hans, you told me like what you paid for your 1300.
Fucking expensive.
Dynamics. I was just like, dude, that's a lot of money. It was like
almost 1,000.
Like, yeah, so I think I paid like something like $475 for 1440 cc injectors, dude.
Yeah, there's a weird thing where it's like depending on like what sells the most, like because like thousands are relatively cheap, but then you go 1200s, they're more, and then you go to a 14 and they're somehow less again. So it's like it's almost like the V8 guys or the 2J guys are all need the 1400s. So it makes it a little bit cheaper for us because they're using the same centers or cores at least. But yeah, for my overall like recommendation for fueling and stuff like that is like if you're going for over 400 or if you're in that 400 plus range, I would definitely look into going fuel return. It's just the peace of mind at that point. You can do 400 on thousands, especially if you're not going 85.
Yep.
But E85, go 12s, 13s, 14s. The most I would ever do on a car realistically would be like 2000s, and that's if you're like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do in the future. It might be crazy, because that's what we're running over here. But that's just because it was what was handed to us in a sense. But yeah, no. Fueling return system over 400, 500 horsepower. You're looking at 12s to 1500 cc injectors. 85 is obviously going to make you need more fuel because you're going to run roughly 30% more fuel than you do.
Yeah, I think he's sticking to 93, but still, I would. I don't know. I
Thousands,
mean,
you'll be close.
Thousands, you'll be
You'll be
fine.
close with thousands.
you'll be fine, but you'll be close.
You'll be close. You'll be
Yeah.
close.
Daxter, I didn't even look at ID 2000s.
Yeah,
Once,
2000s are like you're committed to making like 600 horsepower or something
Yeah.
crazy like that. Like
yeah,
that's like your I want to buy one injector for the entire life of the car, like type of deal.
yeah.
Um,
But
So the sleeves are LA sleeves.
okay,
LA sleeves, I've never
because
heard
you're
of them,
doing
so-
O-ringing too on your engine. Yeah, that's gonna be crazy because I've never worked with that before. So that's definitely run as much boost as your fueling will allow. Type
Yeah,
of deal.
I'm
Yeah.
going all out.
At least they'll be right for you when you are.
How- Are you so Hans? You plan on getting this motor built and obviously sticking with the 1900 for a little while, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna budget constraints now. I'm gonna go up slowly like I have been. So what the plan
That's
is,
fine.
springs, valves for the head, definitely because I'm going to push it to 8,000 RPM.
Yeah.
And try to go for 20 pounds of boost because right now I'm at 18, maybe 20 to 22 pounds,
Mhm.
just to see where everything is at, and just gradually go up from there.
Yeah, 20 to 22 pounds in a standard case series. I know the ninth gens are a little bit weird, but for case series overall, 19 or 19 to 22 pounds is usually going to get you at that 500 horsepower mark.
Yeah, I think that's my goal. I think when it gets all said and done, initial crank up and then take the tune to Derek, I
Mhm.
want to see at least 500 wheel.
Yeah.
And I think I'll be cool because by that time, now I'm going to have to start thinking about getting new fenders, wider tires, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah.
Shoot, you guys
Axles,
are already
maybe.
there basically. Like
Yeah,
I
because
would have
like,
done been chasing tires at this point, but
yeah, because there's this Kevmans on IG. So it's hard to find 14 to 15 wide body kits for my car.
Yeah.
He makes custom wide body kits for 14s and 15 Civics. But it's expensive. I think it's like $1,800 for the fenders and a couple other things.
yeah.
But like your dad, he sent me the car and I hit up that owner and he was like, go to this guy. And it looks nice and it gives, I think, an extra 2 inches. So I think millimeter wise is like what, 50 millimeters. I don't remember. I did the
Yeah.
calculation, but it gives
It's
you a
more.
lot. So I could slap a 10-inch, 11-inch with wheel with some
Mhm.
like 305s or something, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
My recommendation for anybody is that tire helps. Tire always helps for a lot of you guys out here. Any eighth and ninth gen guys, you need tire. Whether or not you think you don't right now, you probably need tire. If you're spinning second and not at 400 horsepower, you probably need tire. If you're on a 225, you need tire. If you're on a 255, you might be okay with tire, but you might need compound. I've always been a stickler for put more tire on your cars. But it's sort of the thing. I mean, dude, factory cars, you always know they don't put enough tire on factory cars. They're running 265s on 300 horsepower Corvettes. Like,
yeah,
it's time to step it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're front wheel drive on top of that. So it's definitely one of those things. Diffs and front wheel drive, but eighth and ninth and guys are spoiled because they got diffs out of the factory. So it's the nice thing about that.
yeah. Because right now with my summer tires, I can't. I mean, I'm spinning fourth, but you know, of course, the tires
It's
are
cold,
hard.
but yeah.
It's cold, but during the summertime, I sometimes spin third a little bit. It just depends. If I warm up with the tires, it's fine. But yeah, I could only imagine once I hit the 500 wheel mark, I'm gonna really have to look at different compound, but wider tires too at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Nate, you saw that comment?
I just read it. Yes, I am the type of guy to DD slicks. Yeah. Yeah.
Dang,
yeah.
baby. Dude, I used to be that guy. I had the Nito NTO1s or
Yeah.
NTO1R. They were like 265, I think. 265, 40, 70, something like that. And I was
those were the
driving.
first Nittos were the first tires I ever put over 1,000 miles on the street. I was like, oh,
Dude,
cool.
I was driving to school, driving to work. driving to autocross events. People are like, you don't want to like change your tires out and then like swap them out for the event. I'm like, why bother?
Just drive them to the event.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The Miata's got me like stressed out because I'm just like, it's a 15-inch rim or wheel. So I can only fit so much tire. Like they don't have a lot
Yeah.
available for it because like it's literally a 245 and then you have to go Hoosiers. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Oh,
and even then you're on our compound. So you're basically running Nittos
yeah.
Yeah.
and 245. So I'm gonna run a 245 eventually, see how that acts, and then maybe
I
go
am
crazy with fender modifications and stuff like that. But
I am currently on the Nito NT 555R, which is allegedly the same compound as an old NT01. So it's a semi R comp or whatever.
yeah,
I mean, they actually tell you on the label, like, don't drive these in the winter.
yeah,
But
yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely.
I haven't, I really should invest in maybe a second set to put like all season tires on.
Yeah.
Maybe,
So at least
maybe I'll do
being
that.
able to fit 17s and 18s gives you a lot of options.
Yeah. People have told me that I should go down to 17s, but I just don't like the look.
Yeah.
So
I don't either.
I'm really picky about it. And I know it's like, okay,
I mean,
I always wanted 18s when I had the RSX. And it's just like,
18s
why?
are for RSX. RSX needs
Yeah.
18s.
And I almost feel like
Definitely.
18s look small on this car because it's so much
Mhm.
bigger.
It's a big car. Like body wise, it looks like a big car.
Mini
So
tough
it's
rider.
one of those things where like the eighth and ninth gens, they just didn't like put the tubs in that they needed. So now you're running into like weird things with offsets and like the fenders on those cars, even if you like walk up to them, they have like a flat in it. Like they don't
Yeah.
like curve the fender out like they used to. Like it's got
No.
a flat edge on
It's
all
like,
of them.
you are not putting
Yeah.
big tires on here.
Yeah. That
And then people
sucks.
just cut it.
Yeah, they just go poop.
Yeah, dude. It's been a good hang. I don't want to overrun anybody. Hans, I know you got your kid and stuff, but um, if you guys want to cover some other stuff, there was something else I wanted to talk about, but I completely forgot, and I think we should just save it for next time.
Yeah.
Um, I know that a lot of people are very grateful for this chat, and they're letting us know in the comments. Thank you for sharing the knowledge, and you know, I'm glad you guys are receiving it, and you are. Oh, I can't. And you're enjoying and you're finding it helpful. I will try to think of more things that I can include. Um, there are some stuff that we don't talk about. There are some things that we don't talk about, right? Or we haven't talked about when it comes to like our supercharger setups. Um, because it is simple and easy to install, but there are some slight modifications we got to make, right?
Mhm.
Um, the AC line, you got to be comfortable bending it on a ninth gen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is no big deal. It's just one of those
Mhm.
things you just got to be patient with because you will most likely snap it or kink it if you rush.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Because
the
I know they
throttle,
sell one, but I don't remember what it's from or who sells it.
yeah,
'Cause I think the Craftwork guys have a custom one. I could be completely wrong on that, but I know somebody sells one for the eighth and ninth gens that works.
yeah,
But it's just been one of those things where my dad. He's just like, oh, well, it just needs to. You need to tweak this a little bit, okay? Boop. And he's never been like, oh, but I have to unbolt it and put it on. And he's like, okay, move and done,
yeah,
or trim sheet metal. And I guess that's one thing that like we sort of woke up to when we got a little bit bigger was that everybody's not ready to
right.
trim or drill a tiny hole in their car.
No,
So
that's true.
we try to stay mindful about that, but at the end of the day, we're still modifying cars. In a sense, we developed our stuff for race car guys, and a lot of street car guys want race car parts. So that's
Yeah,
sort of why we went air to water later on. But because originally we were like air to air. If you don't want air to air, run the CT manifold or something like that. But we're definitely grateful for the amount of support we've got, even though we're sort of unorthodox.
yeah. No, because none of it is like that crazy. I mean, someone said they had to clearance their water pump housing. That might be for one of your older manifolds.
That was, I think he's talking about the housing for the tensioner.
No,
That's like right behind the tensioner, the factory
yeah,
tensioner.
yeah.
Yeah, that was one of those
That's
things where it's like, so a
but you
little
didn't
bit of
have to do it on
grinding.
mine.
Some cars want it, some cars don't. It's really weird. There's like some kind of weird variation between the model years or different
Got it.
castings or whether or not it's a JDM motor. They don't use the same like alternator bracket. Like or I say bracket, but the water pump housing is the bracket, but like K20 and K24, water pump housings are different. So you have to like slightly
Yeah,
change them. And then we have the thermal gasket, which sort of makes up for that for some cars.
right.
So it's one of those things
That
where
might be it. That
it's
might
a
be
it's a
because I have
small
a
trim.
thermal gasket.
The thermal gasket fixes a lot of issues for some people because some people had alternator clearance issues where I mean just the tip of the alternator would touch if their bolt pattern was moved around.
Yeah,
I know some guys had starter clearance issues on the eighth gens.
yeah.
So most people
The last
are
one, the
okay.
last one I'll cover before we go off is the throttle body wire.
Yes, it's longer on the ninth, or you need to make it longer on the ninth gen.
You need to make it longer, but this is also true if you go NA and you go
Yes,
with the whatever
yeah, any
RBC
non-factory
manifold,
manifold.
because now your throttle body gets moved like
Hmm.
at an angle and a little bit further
Yes,
from where it was originally. So
yeah, but
um,
there's a extension harness available pretty cheap for you guys. So we ended
people
up
don't
doing that on Hansa's car. We just because originally when we did Hansa's car, we wanted everything to be sort of like you know,
snap on.
yeah. So if we wanted stuff to just go back to stock, it was ready. Realistically, Hansa's car could probably go back to stock pretty easy. Because I
Probably.
mean, your car, you were sort of like full commit, so I cut the harness and extended it with wires and stuff like that. So it produces a little bit cleaner of the look, and that's how I prefer to do things, anyways. But um, it's not like you have to freaking cut your car, or as far you don't
No,
have to cut a lot of major stuff for your car.
that's
Um,
that's just minimal.
mhm.
I feel like it's minimal. The AC line might scare some people, but again, like you just gotta be
It's
patient
scary. I've
and
broken one,
careful.
so
Um, but patience. With anything, like, dude, changing out that blower pulley. If you don't like put it in nice and straight and like tap
Mhm.
it, turn, it's gonna get stuck at an angle.
Yeah.
Just I struggle with this because I have wife and kids and stuff, and they always want me to finish car stuff in 5 minutes, and it's
Yeah.
just not like that. Even a pulley, you got to take your time and like do it nice and slow. Um, so I think we hit that 2 hour mark. Do you guys want to close it up with anything? Hans, you got to hit us up with whatever's going on with you. What's that? What's next? What's good?
Let's see here. I was gonna
Sorry
post
to put you on the
something.
spot.
Um, oh, I got my second oil analysis back. I was gonna post up.
Oh,
Okay.
Let me see here. Where's it at? So for some reason, the first time I was high in iron and lead, right? And those
yeah.
were like the bearing stuff.
Yeah.
But this time, so I'll read it real quick. The second report from your Civic shows nice improvement. Lead dropped within the normal range, which quiets our concerns about excess bearing wear in your engine. We left a highlight on iron for now, since it's still a bit high on a per mile basis, though the improvement suggests steel parts aren't in any major trouble either. If iron holds steady at this level, it might be normal for your engine. Some engines produce more iron than others, especially those that are run hard or spend lots of time idling.
Falls under the category.
Trends
Run
will tell
hard.
us more. The thin viscosity is harmless, better. So the health of my motor is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I
Burnouts.
mean, realistically, how many oil changes did you really do between when we first boosted the car? Because we made changes, but it hadn't been that long.
Um, I try to change. Well, I don't know before. Now, when I switch to ethanol,
Hmm.
I try to change it every about 3,000 miles.
Yeah.
Ever since
Yeah.
I
That's
switched to
roughly.
ethanol, but like in the oil analysis on the bottom, it tells you if any fuel is into the oil
Mhm.
or antifreeze or anything.
Yeah.
Nothing
So
seeping
they're
through.
not even complaining about
Did you
like
change the weight?
ethanol is famous for like wiping cylinder walls. It's like,
Y-
oh yeah,
y-
you coat the cylinder walls and it wipes the oil.
And I've been on ethanol since last summer, so it's been
Mhm.
about like 8 months.
Yeah.
And you guys know, I've been running the car. I post races. I've been racing. I post races, and there's races I don't even post.
Mhm.
And I've been on long trips, and
No, you've been
nothing
using
seeping
it.
through. And I just
Yeah.
use 100% ethanol now.
Yeah.
Did
It's
you
been fine.
did you change the weight on the oil? Did they ask you to do that?
Nah, the last two I did 0W30.
Zero W30.
Yeah,
Is that
and then
different than from what you were doing before?
yeah, before I did the oil analysis, I was doing 0W20.
Got it.
So I'm
Got it.
doing
Okay.
0W30, and they're saying that the low viscosity is no problem. Yeah, it's within range at 210 Fahrenheit. The SUS viscosity at 210 Fahrenheit, it's within range, and the CST viscosity at 100 degrees Celsius is within range.
All right. Good.
So, like I
Cool
said,
racing
motor's
people.
healthy. I'm pushing 450. Nothing's wrong with it.
I've
Great.
always been I know they're sort of talking about oil in the chat, but like I've always been like a I've always been a oil is oil guy. I mean, as long as it's from a reputable brand, you know. I go
Yeah.
Mobile One, Valvoline, Am's Oil if you want. I usually just go to AutoZone and put I'll run like a factory Honda filter because that's personally what I feel is the best. As far as like what's been open and what hasn't, but yeah, I've never been super picky. I'm a little bit more picky for trans fluid, but that's about it.
Yeah. I would say do a little bit of homework on that.
Yeah,
Even
that's
if you just
personal
watch like two or
preference.
three YouTube videos, because that's what convinced me. Hans was talking a lot about M soil, and I remember back in the day I used Royal Purple for a couple oil changes,
Mhm.
and I didn't like number one. It's really hard to tell whether your oil looks fresh or if it's like near the end of life because it's purple, right?
Yeah.
That was the one letdown. It's like, okay, this is a bad idea. Like purple oil, bad idea.
Yeah.
The last one is that it did look like it deteriorated. Like you could tell, like this oil looks like shit after like
Mhm.
1,000 miles. It was really good at first, but it looks like shit after 1,000 miles or so. Um,
Oh, and
so that I went back to Mobile One and then I did the M soil stuff, and it's just I really
yeah.
like M soil. I like the Dyno Day. I think I did a fresh oil change a couple days before Dyno Day. We ran the car really hard and we raced all of that long trip, and I looked at the oil after when I got home. It looked like I just changed it, like I just poured it in
Yeah.
there. Like
It's there's a lot of independent studies on YouTube that compare all these oils, and you could use whatever oil you want, right? But the AMSOIL always seems to be a top three or even number one, and these are
yeah,
independent people that are doing every test: freezing, boiling, how much does it lose, and it's it's another thing. When you go to the store and you buy oil and it says full synthetic, a lot of these companies say that, but they're not really full synthetic.
Mm.
They are grade 4, and you could consider that as a full synthetic. I think it's grade 5. It's the top grade, and you have to really look into it on the internet. It's like, what's a real full synthetic? And it lists you the company and what oil is their full synthetic, like a true full synthetic. And that's why like people go in, like Mobile One used to be famous for this. They have full synthetic, and you're like, whoa, wow, why is it $6-7? And Amsoil is like 10-12. What the hell? This is a gimmick. They're just trying to upsell you. No, because the Mobile One is using a lower grade synthetic, but by
yeah,
law they could call it full synthetic. And the breakdown properties is totally different. Everything about it is totally different. And oil man, like the real race car driver people, I guarantee they do a lot of
oh,
research
yeah,
on types
Oh,
of oils, man.
absolutely.
yeah.
But
Oh, I got
I did
a
a
update for supercharger colors. So 1900 and 2300 are going to be black. Everything else is going to be silver.
Yo, nice.
Wait, 1900 and what?
And 23 is going to be black. So you're covered, Hans.
Black edition.
How about 2650?
The 26, there's no 2650s. Let one person max out a 1900 first, and then we'll maybe consider a 2650.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. This was great. We talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I look forward to the next one.
It'll be after your
hopefully
dyno day, right?
Yeah, we'll have a dyno day in between that. My review of the white car, which has a B in between, whatever. He calls it the white bitch. This dude calls his car the white bitch. So if you're watching right now and you don't follow along on my channel, I went to Florida a couple of last week, and I actually met with one of the followers, and I would say I made a friend, because this just doesn't happen by accident. So he has an awesome story to tell. I taped as much of it as I could. His car looks pretty badass on the road. I would actually get in a lot of trouble in Connecticut driving that thing. But look forward to that. There'll be more dyno, more data, more information. I just found out today that DevSport, I forgot I ordered DevSport stuff.
Yeah.
So there's more body kit stuff coming, and I just have to get the balls to do work in the winter to actually install it. But I might do something about that. I'm not sure. But thank you, everyone. And look at that, my timer is going. Thank you, Nate. Thanks, Hans, for making the time, dude.
Yep.
We'll be in touch, bro.
Alrighty.
Bye.
All right, thanks everybody for your involvement today.
See you guys.
Welts on your manifold intake. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
And no
Matt,
Craftworks.
thanks, man.